everybody. We are back for another episode of BRO2PRO podcast, episode 9. I'm your host, Big Mo, Morgan McDonald, with my co-host, Randy Madsen. What's going on, man? How's it going? It's been like probably a week since we've done one.
Yeah. Well, just prior to this, I was tasked with putting the baby down for a nap by myself. And I've done it lots of times, obviously. And I can tell you this last one was like the hardest. She's gone through a phase where she's become a lot more aware of what's going on around her. So she can tell like, oh, I'm being put down. I don't want to be put down, or it's time to go to sleep. I don't want to go to sleep, and just
yeah. She's starting to realize that she has options.
yeah, that's a good way to put it. And so that was tough. Kelsey was working out in the garage, and I had to call her. I was like, I need backup. Like, please help.
That must be the most fascinating thing about having a kid. Like that's what I always thought it would just be like just watching them like evolve as like a little person and learn new things, and then like they start to walk and talk, and like just observing all of that must be a bit of a trip.
It is. In some ways, you can get caught up and not notice it because you're just like in a bodybuilding physique, you see yourself every single day and you don't see the little changes add up. But if someone saw you one day and then 4 weeks later they saw you again, they'd be like, holy shit, you look way different.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh, I don't know. Like, I just,
Yeah.
and it's the kid too. When a family member sees a new picture, they're just stunned. But when you do notice the small changes, that is a big part of the reward system, I think, with having a baby.
Oh yeah, man, for sure. So how's the off season going right now?
It's going really well for me. Just back into a routine, and it helps when you have new medium and short, medium and long-term goals, refocused, diet's tighter, just more to look forward to every day rather than in that maintenance phase where you're not really doing anything. You just hope to not lose too much muscle, just plug away, and it's like kind of meh.
Yeah.
But once you can put the foot back on the pedal, then that's the fun part, right?
Yeah. Are you limited at all? Like in your training, like do you feel limited at all?
No, I mean, I would like to have, there's a couple of machines that I miss. I liked using the leg press. I liked using machine lateral raise, and a machine press would be nice, but not having any of those things I'm making do. So instead of a leg press, I'm doing leg extensions or split squats, and then instead of the other exercises, just barbells or dumbbells.
Are you doing back squats now?
No, just leg extensions.
Yeah, you're not trying to do too much, eh?
I'm not trying to do too much. 2 sets of extensions a week is my quad work.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to take this week off legs because I was dealing with like a hip injury for like since July. I only got over it probably in February. And ever since I've been smashing legs, because I went like months without being able to squat or leg press or anything. And obviously like nothing happened to my legs. They stayed the same. But like I almost just still, because I was away from it for so long, just like I've been smashing heavy squats for probably 6 or 7 weeks in a row, heavy leg presses, split squats, all that. And now I have to train legs tomorrow, and it's definitely going to be a hamstring only day because it's starting to catch back up to me a little bit.
Do you have any idea what the root of that problem was, or?
Oh, it's IT band friction syndrome.
Okay. And what kind of things did you have to do to address that?
So I actually did a consultation with a muscle doc, Jordan Shallow, and he gave me like a whole mobility program that I really only followed, to be honest, for like a couple of weeks. And then I started seeing some progression. But I combined that obviously with a lot of massage therapy. My girlfriend's RMT, so we got the massage table at home. So I'm super lucky because I know a lot of people that rely on that right now obviously have to go without it. And then just resting, just staying away from any exercises that hurt. And I had a couple instances like where I went back and re-injured it because like it kind of started feeling better, and I wanted to get back under the bar, like doing safety squats. And like I'd work up to like 315, and then it would just let go again. And basically, what the injury felt like to me was almost like a tendon tear up in like the side of my hip. Like
yeah.
I would get like a big pop, and then like the whole side of my leg, like where my IT band is, would just ache for weeks. Like, like, and then and that's why I know it's catching back up to me now. Cause what happens is like, now if I'm sitting on the couch for like 20 or 30 minutes, like the side of my knee and the side of my hip just start to ache. It's like a dead ache. So I know there's some like inflammation probably building back up there now just from hitting it so hard for so long. So I'm probably going to pull back now for the next week or two, just do hamstring. So essentially I just go from doing like heavy squats and leg press and stuff like that to just a workout that's just like hamstring curls. And the emphasis on that workout will be like heavy stiff leg deadlifts. Because when I was doing, like I was only training hamstrings for a long time when I was dealing with that. And I got up to doing 5 plate stiff legs for sets of 10. And I think it did my whole posterior chain like a world of favor, even like my back. Because like I would do those and my hamstrings would be sore as shit the next day and my glutes, but so would my back. So it was kind of like I would hit back, say Monday, and then Thursday or Friday would come around and I'd hit the heavy stiff legs. So it was almost like training my back twice a week, but like indirectly. And it was, I think it helped me, and it gave my time for my injury obviously to get better. So it's like I've been training at 100% for the last like few months up until now, but it kind of makes sense because even so, like, since this pandemic stuff started, I've been training like 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Just because I'm just getting to the gym as much as I can because like I have this like thought process now of like there could be a point where like I can't get to the place I'm training depending on how this goes. Luckily everything's going really well in Newfoundland.
Yeah.
So I don't really think that's going to happen. But I did go buy a squat rack yesterday.
You did?
Yeah, I bought a squat rack. This guy locally was making them for $500, and like you would just give them like your height, and like it's adjustable, so my girlfriend and I can both use it. And yeah, $500, got a squat rack made. I went and got a barbell. I just ordered some plates and stuff. So soon I'll have, and like I have adjustable dumbbells. I have a bench, so like I'm kind of like safety proofing like myself, so that if I do lose my gym access or my client's gym that I'm training at, then I'll have something to train with, right? But I'm getting ready now to only got only 2 weeks left on this current cycle, and then I'm just gonna pull back on everything because like I even feel like my butt, like my shoulder's starting to hurt me a bit. I actually hurt my back a bit yesterday lifting a big 35-inch tire into my truck. So I had to take everything out of my Hummer to put the squat rack in it for transport. Yeah. And then when I was putting the big spare tire, which is like a 35-inch tire with a steel rim, I just like picked it up like an idiot and launched it in the back of the truck. And like a half an hour later, my upper back was like, fuck. So
that's how all injuries happen.
Oh man, I know. It's always
like Antoine tore his bicep doing shit like that. I tore my bicep just picking my dog up.
Oh yeah.
The one time I hurt my back kind of bad was on a warm-up set of squats, just the warm-up set. But other than that, people just hurt themselves in everyday life with an awkward twist, some torque that they're not prepared for.
Oh yeah, it was so dumb. Like, 'cause I took it. Like, it's funny because when I was taking the tire out of the Hummer before we went and got the squat rack, I did it like very safely. I was very conscious of it. When we got home, it was raining out, and I just had the tire at my front lawn. So I backed up, just opened up the back of my truck, and literally just like picked it up and flipped it like 5 feet. Like, and after sitting down driving for like an hour, right? So I was like just stiff and stuff, and didn't feel it when it happened. Like a half an hour later, like I got up off the couch to go walk my dog, and I was just like, oh no. So anyway, it doesn't feel too bad. Like it's just a little sore, so it's nothing serious. But that's besides the point.
You mentioned Lori being a RMT, and obviously you guys live together. You guys are in a long-term relationship. Do you feel like that's a significant advantage for bodybuilding to have that consistent access to a massage therapist?
Fuck yeah, big time, man. Like anytime something starts feeling shitty on me, and like she's so experienced too. It's like she's been doing massage therapy for like 20 odd years, so she's extremely experienced. So like, and she knows my body so well now because she's been treating me like probably twice a week for the last 4 or 5 years now. So she's so familiar with my body, and like she knows all my injuries now. So as soon as something starts acting up, like we know exactly what works. So she knows what to do. And the next day or 2 days after, I'm back to like 100%. And it's the ability to just consistently train hard, right? Because if you have like something like a nagging injury and you don't have the ability to take care of it, and then it makes you hold back on your training, obviously over time that's going to impact your results and your progression, right? So
Yeah.
I
Well, it's
think
like
especially with this,
you're like a race car, and you've got an in-house mechanic to constantly tune you up to keep you running at a top rate, right?
yeah, it's exactly how it feels, man. Yeah, no, 100%. So she saves me all the time, especially with this hip thing. Like, that was really holding me back, and just like she was grasping that like twice a week, just breaking down all the scar tissue that was built up around my IT band, and then got me back to training. So yeah, man, I think it's huge. And like, I know some bodybuilders that like have never even had a massage, and I don't know how they do it, because I guess you just get used to working through injuries or something, because for me it's something I don't think I'd be able to go without.
Yeah, one of my best friends, Nate, he never ever gets a massage. Like, the extent of his manual therapy, his girlfriend might, or now his wife, might give him a little rub down on his back, but nothing obviously like a therapist would do. But this guy, you've seen Nate on stage. He's big, he's got lots of muscle. He deadlifts like 5 plates per
Oh yeah.
side, nothing. This guy is just built some from some different material. He doesn't get knots. He doesn't get that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, there's definitely guys like that, man. There's definitely guys like that. Yeah. Like, I know, do you know a guy, Sean Smith?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like little, like super jack dude, like crazy back. Turned pro like last year, I think. But I remember reading something about him saying that he's never had a massage in his life, and like, this guy does dumbbell skull crushers with 110-pound dumbbells. And I'm just like some guys just got the joints. I guess it's just a genetic thing, right? Like,
I think so.
and that's obviously another huge advantage. So there's the advantage of having a massage therapist, or just not being able to get hurt.
Well, I've had conversations. Everyone likes to talk about what is it that makes Ronnie Coleman so much different and so much better. And people want to talk about maybe he had a myostatin deficiency. Maybe he had just the best insulin sensitivity you could possibly imagine. Maybe it was those things. But I think the strength of his soft tissue, his tendon strength, and his durability, and his ability to just train that hard is like no one else. Now, of course, he's suffering a lot of ill effects in his spine and who knows where else. But during his career, he trained so insane and had actually very few injuries considering the way that he trained.
And you know what? From what I understand with the Ronnie Coleman thing, like, he had a pretty significant back injury like very early in his career, like before he was even a pro. And I think it was either from like football or wrestling or powerlifting. But from like I said, from what I know, like, that back injury, with obviously with all the training on top of it, is what kind of led him to where he is now. So, who's to say that if he never had that first back injury, that he would even be in the predicament that he's in now? He might be fine if it wasn't for that
Sure.
one thing, right? So
Yeah.
it's hard to attribute it to his style of training. But like, I mean, he did squat 800 pounds like 2 or 3 weeks out from the Olympia or something. So like, I don't even know how that's fucking possible.
Yeah, just the durability, though. I think a lot of top level pros that can train just so hard that they are the ones that people look up to for their training intensity. Like, when you've got guys that are hardcore and then they have someone to look up to, it's those guys. Those guys just have the durability of the gods. Yeah. And eventually they get injured, but any one workout that they do would injure like the rest of us. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the difference.
yeah, exactly. You know what I think about sometimes too, man? Like, just like the whole genetic part of bodybuilding, like, and with Ronnie Coleman, like, he never really aspired to be a bodybuilder, like, originally. Like,
Right.
we heard the story about the whole thing. Like, he got a free gym membership, and that's what made him compete. And then he realized he was good at it, and so on. He became Ronnie Coleman. Like, how many people are walking around out there with like elite genetics to be something great, and just never realize that potential, and never even like give it a thought? Like, do you think, okay, say you had no interest in bodybuilding, okay, but someone came to you and said, if you pursue this, you can be one of the best that ever did it. You'll be set for life and make all kinds of money, and you'll be a celebrity in that thing. But you have no interest in it. Would you do that? Would you pursue it, or would you say, I have no interest in it, so it doesn't matter anyway?
I think that's like a personality type thing, and my personality type, honestly, I'd probably give it a shot.
Yeah.
You know, because ever since I was a kid, I wanted to go pro in something. Like in elementary school and middle school, I wanted to be a professional soccer player. I'd play soccer twice a day, every day, rain or shine, snow, whatever. I was obsessed with it. And then I got into skateboarding. I wanted to be a professional skateboarder.
Oh boy.
Wasn't as good. I always ended up being the guy like filming my buddies. Then I got a BMX bike, and I was like, okay, this is going to be the. And then I started playing football. And football from grade 10 until I was 24 years old, I was like, football is my thing. I want to be a pro. And then I switched from football to bodybuilding, and here we are, like
Yeah.
on a podcast. And that's just been my thing. So I'm maybe a little bit different than most people, but to answer your question directly with an example, yeah, I would. I just wanted to be like great at something, you know?
Yeah, man, I guess that you're right. That is such a personality thing because there's so many people, I guess, that could just care less. Like they just want to live like a regular life, like be happy, all that shit. But like I'm the same. Like any sport I've ever played, any fucking video game I've ever played, like I want to be the best at it. Like
Yeah.
I'm ultra competitive in that way. Like it could be the most meaningless thing ever, but like I want to win. Like I want to be the best at it. So yeah, I totally relate. That would be the same thing as me, man. Like, like I've never been into golf, but I'd say even if some guy approached me now and was like, listen, man, like you got it. Like you could be one of the best golfers ever. I'd fucking be all over it. Like I just want to be the best at something.
That's easy math, though.
Yeah.
Golf, like such a high paying sport, that's easy math. There
Yeah.
are other
Yeah.
things like what they could be, maybe you're a great golfer, and then they said, oh, you should try bodybuilding. You could be Mr. Olympia. Then I'm like, I don't know. I'm already really good at golf, and it's like not hard on my body, and I
Yeah.
like doing it. So
So true. So true.
special. You have to be unique in itself to want to pursue a career in bodybuilding too, especially when you have any idea what goes into it. That actually reminds me, I do another show behind a paywall. So the coach that I work with, Roderick Chavez of Team Evil GSP, he has a members website, members.teamevilgsp.com or something like that. And we record a lot of our weekly calls, our coach client check-ins. We record those and we put them online. And we put up one from almost every single weekend of my last prep. And I just got a message the other day, and the guy thanked me for the content that we put on that website because it helped him decide that he doesn't want to be a bodybuilder, because he said in watching that evolution week to week, seeing what you go through as a normal person, and in saying a normal person, I got a regular day job, my family, I got other hobbies, and I do bodybuilding. I'm not some genetic freak that has like 1 million followers online. I'm just plugging away. And anyways, he said, watching what you had to go through and seeing during your prep, like even your speech and your thinking slowed down week to week, and you can see it on film. It helped him realize that he does not want to go down that path. And he said, I wish more people would watch something like this before they jump into it and realize what they're getting themselves into. So I guess my point is, people have this idea of what it's going to be like, and that's not always the case. So you're not always getting what you think you're getting into, right? It's a lot different.
It's funny you bring that up, man, because even myself right now, that's kind of something I was going to get into. Like even I'm starting to feel a little mentally exhausted, like with the regiment of it all. And obviously like all my shows being moved has an impact on that. Right. But like I've been on a pretty strict diet since January of 2019, just like working steady throughout. I took 1 month off and just did my own thing and then got back on it, working with Dorian. But that's almost that's where I'm at right now, and that's actually my plan. This will be my last check-in with Dorian for at least a month. I just know right now, like if I'm going to get back into prep around June or July for shows in the fall, like hopefully they go ahead and all that shit. Like I need a mental break before I do it. Because even now, like it's like I'm not like on my low carb days and stuff, I'm hungry, but like that's whatever. It's not that. It's just the fact of like eating the same thing every single day, like training super hard, ejecting every day. It's just kind of like taking its toll on me mentally a little bit. So my mindset right now is just to take the whole month of May. Like, obviously I'm still going to train, I'm still going to eat good, but just like, not follow a strict plan, probably only train like 4 days a week. Just let my body heal a bit. Cause like I said earlier, like I'm starting to feel some like aches and pains and stuff now just from being so steady built at it. And I still feel like I made progress, even though we had this weird like cycle where like I was in prep and then it kind of switched to like a maintenance off season thing. But I'm looking forward to just trying to maintain this level of body fat on my own and kind of stay around like 305 pounds, just kind of do it my own way, at least just for like a month, maybe 6 weeks tops, and then get back going. But yeah, man, like it's just, I just feel like that's the best thing to do for me, because then I feel like I'll be able to refocus mentally when prep time comes and we actually got to get back at it like 16 weeks out kind of thing. So yeah.
What's that going to look like? The time where you're kind of, we'll call it a cruise or kind of a maintenance phase, and you're going to do that yourself. How do you see that looking? What's your training going to be like? What's your diet going to be like, and all that?
So I'm going to just bring down the test dose to 125 milligrams every 5 days. I think I'm going to come off GH for a while, because I've been on GH for like well over a year now, like steadily. And every time I get my blood work back, my thyroid functions like wonky. Like it's like I know my doctor's not a fan of that. So I want to just come off GH for like 6 weeks, just kind of let everything get back to normal, like really clean out. Like obviously besides a little bit of tests I'll be doing, which is just completely necessary because I would crash without it. And then diet wise, I'm thinking like I just want to bring it down to like 5 meals a day instead of 6, and just make each of those meals like a little bit bigger probably. And then I'll stick to my same thing where I just I'll eat clean for 6 days a week, probably 5 meals, and then I'll just have one day where I kind of just eat what I want, like within reason, obviously. And then just do that. And like with the training, like probably bring it down to 4 or 5 days a week, depending on how I feel week to week. And just lower like volume, not so much intensity. Like I still want to get like one heavy set per exercise in, like per se, right? Whereas now I probably do 2 or 3, right? So just still stimulate the muscle maximally, but understand that my food is probably going to be down a bit. The drugs aren't going to be there. The GH is not going to be there. So I'm just not going to need the same volume where I'm just going to try to maintain, right? It's like just stimulate the muscles up to what I've been doing lately, and then just leave it there, just like to prevent muscle loss. And I kind of like that, especially with being off everything, because I think, the more volume you can do and get away with is kind of dependent on how much drugs you're taking and how much food you're eating, right? So if both of those things are down, then doing the same amount of volume is not going to benefit me. I think it would just benefit
100%.
Yeah, right. So
100%.
Still have, like I said, still have those intense sets there, but just fewer of them. And just give my body more rest it needs. I'll probably up the massage therapy if my girlfriend's willing to do it, just to get my body as prepared as we can for prep come June or July. And then, yeah, that's my plan as of now.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. The way, because before I hopped on this current cycle, I was doing much like what you were doing. And when I approach that, of course, it's a low dose, just the minimum amount of testosterone to keep, male sex hormone functions going. That helps blood work start looking good. But in terms of diet, I really just have an approximate calorie amount and an approximate protein amount, and then carbs and fats can fall where they may within that framework. And that allows for a lot of flexibility during the day. I do five meals usually. Each day might be a little bit different, but that's refreshing in itself. And then training, I would only do like 80 sets a week, and fewer days per week as well. Because like you said, that enhanced state is what allows you to thrive on more volume. But like a natural, good luck recovering from more than 80 hard sets a week. It's not,
no.
have a real hard time doing it.
You're just going to impede your own recovery. Yeah.
Yeah. You can go like, I get up to 120, 125 sets a week, not like consistently. I start at like 80 sets, and then I add 5 sets every week. And then, the weight goes up as you get stronger. Intensity goes up as the weight goes up. And then everything just kind of goes up, 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 up. But then you reach like the end of your cycle, you're experiencing a ton of systemic fatigue, emotional, logistical, in some cases, financial fatigue. And that's why cycles are 16 to 20 weeks max, because you can't expect it to do all those things at maximum capacity for any longer than that. And anyone that they can do it, I don't believe them. Like,
Yeah.
you can get as much out of those 16 weeks as you should have if you can keep going.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the point I'm at too. Like I even feel like I could go without these last 2 weeks, but I'm just like, even so, if I finish it off, it's still only going to be a 12-week cycle.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I can probably push it a little bit, but even so, even for the next 2 weeks, my mindset is just kind of like maintain a little bit. Like obviously I'm not pushing for size or anything now. But I like, the way I am right now, where I am mentally right now, I'm okay. What I know is that if I continue with this strict diet that I'm on and we keep it the same until prep time, and then we start dropping food out of this diet, like come that time, I'm going to lose my shit.
It's a
Right.
long time to be restricted like that.
Exactly. It's just a restriction. Right. And like in my head, like I know how to intuitively eat. Right. Like I know my body like well enough by now, you know what I mean? Like I can easily eat to sustain where I am. And then I know, like, if I'm like, okay, if my weight starts creeping up above like 310, I'm like, all right, got to drop the food for a week, probably throw in some cardio, bring myself back down. Like, it's very easy for me to do, like, so, and it would just give me some like more variety in my foods and things like that. And I think 6 weeks of that, I'll be ready just to get back on it and just be super strict and just like back to the hardcore bodybuilding thing. Right. So
Yeah,
that's the plan.
You'll be crawling up the walls by the end of that, ready to put the pedal back down.
Yeah, 100%. Like I'll be ready to go, and then also like I'll have more mental clarity of like what's really going on with all this pandemic stuff too, right?
True.
You know what I mean? Because like come June or July, things could be fucking worse, and they could be like, "There's no way their shows happen this year," and then it's like, okay, well, that's all you can do then. Then I can kind of figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing too, man. Like I don't want to be dumping a shit ton of money into this, like paying my coach, paying for Farmer Grade GH, like doing these cycles, and then come the fall, there's nothing to even fucking do, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I think you're making the right choice there, especially right now in this unique time. That's probably the best thing that you could do right now.
yeah, and to be honest too, the weather's getting nicer here. Like I want to have some more free time, like go hang, like take my dogs out and just like go do some stuff. Like we're obviously limited, but you can still get outdoors and do more shit like that. So I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got some questions for you now that are kind of relatable. So protein powder versus whole food protein sources. What's your take on that?
Well, I think there is a benefit to both. I mean, the key benefits of a protein powder is it's an easy and sometimes cheap replacement. It's a convenience thing for a whole food protein source. And I think just the average person could and should, have some mix of both if that's what's required to get to their protein goal. But if we are like down to the nitty gritty, I think whole foods are always better than a supplement or a replacement. And that's how I see protein powder, as like a protein meal replacement thing. I'm right now currently not using protein powder at all. But in certain times of my diet, I'll work it in. Like, for example, if I have insulin active while I'm training, then I'm going to need a carb shake on me while I'm training. And if I've got a shake going already, then I figure I'll toss in a scoop of protein powder at the end of the workout, just to maximize the use of the exogenous insulin.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's in, but right now I'm not using any protein powder. Sometimes I might put some protein powder in my oatmeal. We all do the peanut butter, chocolate whey, and oatmeal. Sometimes the old protein sludge, but yeah, I don't have anything bad to say about protein powder, unless there's a few specific scenarios, I guess, if you have a lactose intolerance.
Yeah.
Also, it might not be as filling as other whole food proteins, but I don't think there's anything really bad about it. I can remember when I first started bodybuilding or just working out, and I had to get some protein powder. I got my aunt to order it for me, and she gave me a real hard time about all the heavy metals in the that was like 15 years ago now. turned out all right. But yeah. So what do you think? Any different than that?
Well, I have follow-up questions for you. So, because so in my mind, if someone is like serious about bodybuilding, a lot of people think they're serious about bodybuilding, but they're not. And those are the people who have protein powder in their diet.
Yeah.
Like basically, right? Like I have guys come to me and they'll like want to start nutrition coaching with me or something. And it's always the same shit, right? It's like, oh, I have trouble eating, so I do 3 protein shakes a day and like 2 or 3 whole food meals. And I'm just like, well, that's not the best way to do it. And a lot of times people just don't want to hear it because they don't want the convenience taken away from them, right? Because they kind of get stuck in their ways. But the way I look at protein powder is that most people do have some type of lactose intolerance. Like I would say a majority of people do. And protein powder to me is a processed food, right? So, and like we all get this, man. Like how many protein shakes are we after having it? And like, your digestion is messed up just based off your bowel movements afterwards, right? So if something's processed, like any processed food, your body doesn't really need to break it down in your digestive system as much. So whereas like if you have a chicken breast or a steak, your body needs to go through the whole digestive process of breaking that food down and absorbing the nutrients from it as it breaks it down. But if you put a processed protein powder in your stomach, it kind of just goes right through you. And in my mind, especially if you have some type of lactose intolerance, like you're probably only going to absorb half the protein that came with that whole scoop. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of my consensus of it. Because if you have, like I said, like a lactose intolerance, there's going to be inflammation there, and that inflammation is going to prevent you from absorbing all the nutrients from it, right? Whereas if you just have a whole food protein source that you digest well, your body's going to break it down, you're going to absorb all the amino acids, and you're going to reap all the benefits of that food as opposed to a protein powder. So that's kind of where I stand on it. Like you said, whole food's always better. But now, if you have a guy that's in his off season and he's eating 500 grams of protein a day, having 2 scoops of protein for one meal is probably not like such a bad idea, especially if it's like for the first meal or the last meal. That's kind of where I stand on it. But I think like using it, 2 to 3 times a day for meals is really going to hold you back. It's going to mess up your digestion, and therefore it's going to mess up performance in the gym. And it's just like a chain reaction of negative things that's going to happen from that, right?
In your example of an off-season bodybuilder and tossing a couple extra scoops in there and not being a problem, I agree, but for a different reason. I think that on average, bodybuilders tend to eat more protein than they need. Yeah. So that those 2 extra protein scoops, if in your theory of it, that you're not going to absorb all the protein, I would say they're getting enough protein as it is. So their protein could be fake and they'll still be fine.
Yeah.
I don't have as strong of a position against protein as you do, but we both agree that whole food's better. There are people that absolutely shouldn't use protein powder, but I think sometimes it's fine. I don't program protein powder usually unless I have a client that is going to be very specific about nutrient timing. Then the speed of digestion and absorption of a whey protein can be leveraged, but that's not most people.
I get it all the time. Like I'll make a nutrition plan for somebody and there won't be any protein powder in it. And they're just like, do I still have my scoop of protein after I work out? And I'm just like, you don't need it. I'm like, you're eating 6 ounces of protein 6 times a day. Like you have plenty of protein in your body. You have plenty of amino acids, right? Yeah. It's something that's hard to get out of people's mind, right? Like, and because some people still differentiate protein from food. Like they think of protein as a supplement, where really it should be thought of as like a food source, right?
Yeah.
Like 1 scoop of protein to me is basically the equivalent of like 5 ounces of chicken.
So I'm more, I have your outlook for that, but I have it for branched chain amino acids. I think that supplemental or exogenous branched chain amino acids are probably the most useless product ever put into the bodybuilding community and just ate right up. Everyone loved it. But most of these people are also using a whey protein powder, which is chock full of supplemental BCAAs, but everyone is eating some form of protein throughout the day, at least 3 or 4 meals. They're getting all of the branched chain amino acids from the whole foods, the real branched chain amino acids. They're getting all the leucine that they could possibly need to have additional branching amino acids on top of that, I don't think there's any point to it. I think it's just another one of those kind of supplement industry gimmicks that sounds good, but if you really critically think about it, you don't need it. And the other problem I have with it is people will drink a lot of BCAAs when they're dieting. I don't know about you, but I eat more protein when I'm dieting than when I'm not dieting. So I have even more branching amino acids available, and that's why I write my diets as well. So there's that reason to not need additional supplemental BCAAs. But the point I was going to make is they have calories in them. It's not just a free flavored beverage that you get when you consume a flavored BCAA. They have calories in it. Those have to be considered. And if you're drinking like 10 shakes a day, that could add up to 50 to 100 calories depending on what product you're using. So
yeah, well, exactly. Like if you have 10 grams of BCAAs, that's essentially 10 grams of protein, which would be like 40 calories.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I think people really disregard that in contest prep because it's like I guess it's some type of craving killer for people, right? Just have like your little. That's why I drink them, to be honest, because it tastes good.
Yeah,
and I get them for free.
So, yeah, you get it for free.
Yeah,
that's the only acceptable answer that I will take from anyone is the sponsored athletes that get their shit for free.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Don't spend your money on it.
But if you especially like when you're talking about like $40 or $60 for like a little tub of EAAs that you don't need, like you might as well just go buy like the little like Kool-Aid squirt things that squirt in your water, right? Yeah. Like you'll literally get just as much out of it, and it's like $1.50. Yeah. But you know what though? If you're like a vegan bodybuilder,
there's one.
Right? EAAs could be good for you. You might want to do 2 or 3 scoops a day of those bitches if you're not eating any fucking like protein.
Yeah. Yeah, they're vegans. Fuck them.
Yeah. So on the supplements, I was going to ask you like useful supplements versus not useful supplements, but I think we already kind of covered that before. So what I'm going to ask you is, do you think if a bodybuilder has good genetics, pretty good genetics, good work ethic, like their drug protocol is sound, they're training hard, and their nutrition is on point, do you think they could be a successful bodybuilder without any supplements at all?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, 100%. I think supplements make up like 0.5% of the whole thing, if that really. You know,
it's probably like something like that.
Yeah, like supplements to me now, whereas like early in my career, everything was performance based, and now it's all health based.
Yep.
Like 90% of the supplements I take are just to support my like organs and just my overall health, right? Like fish oil, multivitamin, ubiquinol, astragalus, probiotic, like digestive stuff too, like digestive enzymes, like psyllium husk, like all these things. Like that's my supplement protocol now. Like I use a bit of creatine here and there. I drink the EAAs because they taste good, and carb powder. But again, like carb powder is like food, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you look at any of the bodybuilders, even up until, I don't know when the supplement industry really took off, but it was probably sometime in the 90s. So any bodybuilder before that didn't really have any supplements. Maybe someone started to use creatine at some point and some protein powder. But before that whole economy of the supplement industry itself became a beast, there wasn't marketing for it, so there wasn't a need for it. And they did just fine for the most part, I think. I don't think the differences that you see in today's physique have anything to do with the over-the-counter supplements. I just think it's a business like anything else. They create a need with marketing, and it's the naturals and the novices that get targeted with this advertising and this marketing, and that's who makes up the biggest portion of the buying segment. If you go to an expo, it's all twinks and little guys and naturals that fill these expo halls because they're obsessed with these supplements. They're obsessed. So that's not to say that advanced level bodybuilders don't use them, but I think the more advanced you get in this, the more you realize what is important. And it's hard training, it's the whole foods, and guys don't like to talk about it, but it's also the exogenous hormones, all on top of a good genetic and work ethic base.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was watching like I love Jay Cutler TV and everything he's doing on YouTube. I think it's awesome. But him and his buddy Dave were talking about like Jay Cutler's nutrition line, because they had people asking questions, right, about when to take what supplements, and they were going through it all. And like in my head, I'm just like, none of this shit matters. Like when you take your, like how long before your workout you take your pre-workout, like when you take your creatine, your BCAAs, like all that stuff, right? And it's obviously natural people asking these questions, like people that think like supplements are what's going to like kind of help them get to like the next level of their physique, when I'm sure if you're natural it might help more than it would someone like us, like who's enhanced. But anyway, just
Well, what I'll add to that is I went through that same phase like the person that I just talked about. When I first got into bodybuilding and I was still natural, I tried to maximize my use of those over-the-counter supplements. And I was buying everything. I mean, like religiously, I was taking my glutamine, my creatine, my branched-chain amino acids, beta-alanine, D-aspartic acid, citrulline malate. I was buying all this shit in individual form. I wasn't buying any, big name companies concoctions, because I was like, I would read a scientific article and they'd say, this is how many grams of citrulline malate you need pre-workout to get these results that we show in this study. Say it was like 5 or 6 grams. And I'd be like, well, I need 5 or 6 grams of that. And this product only has 3 grams. So I bought that shit straight, like raw form. And I was like I said, I was religious about it. And then, it didn't do very much for me, obviously, or anything. And then I hopped on my first cycle and I was like, oh, right. This is 10, 15,
exactly. 20 yeah. But one thing I will say, I'll add to that, like pump enhancement products, like if you do take clinical doses, I do find a big difference in like the amount of pump I get in a workout. Like Jack Factory has 3 products I really like to use. I use them every day pre-workout. Pump Surge, which is just like, pump product, right? So like nitric oxide boosters, L-citrulline, and then I take a L-arginine by itself, and then I'll take another supplement that kind of helps with mental focus, but also has more L-citrulline in it. So I probably take 7 or 8 grams of L-citrulline before I train. And I definitely find that with with arginine makes a big difference to my pump. Like I can notice it if I don't take it too, right? So that's something a supplement I will say is probably like could be worth the money, especially when dieting. Like if your carbs are low and stuff like that, and like you're struggling getting like a pump in your workout, if you can take a supplement to help you get that, then I think like over time, you doing that consistently can actually probably benefit.
I like that. But for a reason that you might not think. So people often associate a better workout, a better pump during their workout with better progress and better gains. And I don't necessarily see it that way. I don't think that there's much reason to think that a chemically induced pump is going to help produce more muscle growth stimulus than if you went without it. And so table that. The reason that I think that I like it is that placebo effect, what you see in the mirror helps motivate you. It keeps you going. There are benefits to getting a great pump. Whether or not they're actually producing more muscle or not is one thing. That look that you get when you see in the mirror is very rewarding. It feels awesome. And that can make the difference between a good workout and a bad workout, and the difference between a good day and a bad day. So that reason I think they're great, but I'm not about to sit here and tell anyone that I think that they'll produce more muscle by having a more intense workout or better pump during their workouts.
And that's exactly what I was going to say, is that I don't think it's going to like directly enhance results, but like you said, like if you're in prep and like you're feeling shitty, you can't get a pump, but this helps you do that, and in turn makes you work out harder, then there's your benefit, right? Like if it's a mental trick that benefits you, then fuck it, whatever, man. That's what pre-workout is anyway, right? Like especially like the stimulant ones.
I like to pull out those kind of little tricks late in prep as well. Like most of the time I just use caffeine, but then at the end of prep, when calories are low, when you're flat all the time, well, first of all, that's when I like to use Anadrol, but we're not talking about real drugs. We're talking about supplements. That is when I would go to I'd go to the store and I'd buy a pump product or a pre-workout that has both, some or all of those ingredients. Give me a little bit better pump, give me better stim, and, take me to another level that I can't get to because I'm just beat up, I'm tired. It's been a long time on this diet and this I'm training my ass off and discouraged by what I see in the mirror. So little extra chemical boost from something like that works in a very acute way. I like it for those purposes. But I think it also has to be a cost benefit analysis. So I think people should go and they should read the labels and see what the doses are in what products, and make sure it aligns with what they think that they need. And not a lot of products have it, but for example, you're with Jack Factory. I know that they've got some really good dosed pre-workouts. The best one that I've probably ever seen yet is Fuad's products.
Yeah.
He's really maximizing those. With that comes a high cost. Like, they're shipped out of the United States, so you got to spend a few $100s to get a couple pre-workout products from him, and that's a lot of money.
Yeah, man, that's the thing too, right? Like, I would spend almost nothing on supplements if I wasn't sponsored. And like, I'm grateful for Jack Factory stuff because, they have green supplements I take, like multivitamins, they have organ support I take, like all these health supplements, they cover almost like all of them for me, right? But that stuff I would still buy. But as far as like I said before, like the EAAs and the protein powder and certain things like that, I probably wouldn't spend my money on, just because you have to prioritize, obviously, when you're a bodybuilder, where you spend your money, right?
Yeah. Well, one product that I like, but if you buy it in supplement form, it's too expensive, is these carb powders. I like a carb powder for during your workout, or to just get extra carbs in if you're a real hard gainer. But if you're using insulin and insulin's active during your training, it's going to be smart for you to have a fast digesting carb source on hand. And if it's the form of dextrose or Gatorade powder, I think that's totally fine. It's nice and cheap and it does the trick. But if you're going to go and spend the money on branch cyclic dextrins and Vitargo and Carbolin and these products, those are way overpriced. I don't think that you need to spend your money on those. Get the cheap dextrose from the bulk barn, and you'll accomplish the same thing. And I don't want to hear people talk about rate of digestion or these things. I don't think there's a significant difference in any of the products. So
I would differ. I would beg to differ.
You think so?
From my own experience. So I was like an avid Carbolin user until I started working with Dorian. One thing with the Carbolin, man, like, I would drink that right after I was done working out. If I wasn't eating a half an hour later, I was going hypo for sure.
But how would that be? Could you actually compare and contrast that to a straight dextrose or a Gatorade powder?
No, because I've never taken either of those.
Right. Well, so I think
but
those are the cheap version that is a fine replacement for.
Okay, yeah. So you can get dextrose and replace it with Carbolin, but you can't get dextrose and replace it with a carb 10 cluster dextrin mix, because it's way different. Like I've been switched to carb 10 cluster dextrin now, because that's what Jack Factory makes. That's what like Dorian Supplement Company makes. That's what Seth Rossi Supplement Company makes. Like, that's kind of where the carb powder direction is going now, is the half carb 10. So like, if your scoop is 50 grams of carbs, 25 will be carb 10, 25 will be cluster dextrin. And I'll drink that after I work out. And man, I can go for an hour and a half before I got to eat.
But that's literally the opposite of the intended use of dextrose, in my view. I think that the purpose of drinking a dextrose or a carb powder is so it gets in there very fast, spikes that insulin in that anabolic window while insulin is high, and then it's in, then it's out, and then you're done.
I think you still get the insulin spike. I think it's just more sustained. I just don't, like, I think like with Carbolin, I would have an insulin spike and the carbs would be in and out of my system super fast. I still think I get an insulin spike using the other. It's still 50 grams of carbs I'm drinking right after I work out. All I'm saying is that my blood sugar doesn't crash as soon after I use it.
Why wouldn't you just have something like oatmeal if you want like a slower digesting carb?
Because it wouldn't get in my system as fast. That's why it's two types of carbs, right?
So you're saying that it gets in faster but out slower?
Yeah, because it's two different carbs. It's two different. They have two different, like whereas Carbolin is just Carbolin, right? It's 50 grams of Carbolin, so it's in and out super fast. I think the cluster dextrin gets in really fast, and the carb 10 takes a little while. It's almost like isolate protein to casein protein.
I still think, well, so for that example, you could have oatmeal and a little bit of jam. That jam's going to get in real fast, and the oatmeal is just going to
But I don't want to fucking eat oatmeal and jam as soon as I'm done training on the way home.
Yeah, that's fair too. I mean, I'm just saying from a cost benefit analysis, those products that you mentioned for the average person are going to be really expensive compared to what you could do with whole foods.
Oh
Now,
yeah,
you
totally.
want to circle back and talk about protein powder not being as good as protein whole foods, but then you want to say you want to have this carb shake instead of your oatmeal or your rice. So,
Well, if I was in a different situation, then I might have a different opinion on it, right? I'm just talking about like my experience with certain types of carb powders, and I think
yeah,
my perspective on that is legitimate because all other variables are the same, like my diet and my training, like
yeah,
and my like PEDs, like everything else is the same, right? So like if I was fucking some guy that had ate a different amount of food every day, that information wouldn't be relevant at all. But because I always have the same amount of food before I work out, and then I use this type of carbs, I have a really bad blood sugar crash. I use this type of carbs and I don't, but it's the same amount of carbohydrates. To me, I'm like, okay, I just like this one better because I don't have to worry about passing out,
yeah. That's fair.
after I get out
That's
of the
totally
shower
fair.
for after I work out.
Yeah,
Right. So,
yeah, yeah. Totally fair. In when you compare those two scenarios.
yeah. Right. So, all right. I got another question for you. How many times does a person come to you, like a young man, and they want to get bigger? So they ask you how to go about that. Then you see pictures of them, and they almost always need to lose body fat before they can start to get bigger.
I would say the majority of guys are already a little skinny fat when they want to get big.
Okay, so perfect example. So say you have a skinny fat guy come to you and he wants to put on muscle, but like he's probably still 15-20% body fat and like no muscle. So do you just try to get him big right away, or do you try to cut him down, get him a little bit leaner first, even though he already has no muscle, before you start bulking him up, or what do you do there?
So I think it depends on the scenario. And if we're talking about a novice lifter that's natural, I think the best way to approach that is somewhat of a recomp approach or a very small calorie surplus, because given their relative inexperience, almost any kind of training and diet is going to result in some additional muscle mass accrual. We all make our best gains when we're noobs and or hop on our first cycle or two, say similar scenarios. But I think as long as you aim to keep the scale steady or a very slow increase, they're going to recomposition body fat into muscle, and they will get bigger, they'll get stronger, and they'll get more muscular, but without adding too much body fat. Whereas if you just went to a straight bulk, you want, all right, we're going to start you off on a 500, 600 calorie surplus. I think that's going to result in some muscle, maybe even more muscle than in the previous scenario, but absolutely more body fat.
Yeah.
And so minimizing that body fat accumulation, it would be, I think, a better long-term strategy for them, because we all get to the point, okay, now it's time to diet. Oh, I overate. I got too fat. I was too aggressive with my weight gain. Now I've got all this extra fat. Now I'm just big fat, not skinny fat. And so, you know,
Yeah, no, I think that's a sensible way to go about it. Like you said, like if you just have a guy who's never trained before, especially, it's kind of easy because as soon as they start training, like you said, they kind of recomp anyway, especially those newbie gains. I think the real struggle there is when you've had someone who's been lifting for like 4 or 5 years,
mhm.
and they got a bit of muscle, but they're like 15 to 20% body fat. I always just find it hard, like because they come to you and they're so motivated because like they know, like, especially a guy like me, like where I'm bigger, obviously, like they're just, they're coming to me because they want to look like me, or they want to, like,
Yeah,
to a certain extent, right? And they just want to get right to like eating big because like they always see me eating like fucking 8,000 calories a day and training super heavy. They want to get right into that. And I'm like, okay, well, we need about 12 weeks of doing the exact opposite of that before we can do it properly. Because that's just the way I am as a coach, man. Like, I'm not a people pleaser at all. Like, I tell everyone just straight up, like, you're hiring me to make you look this way. I'm going to do it the best way I know how, right? Like, I'm not going to do it just because, like, I'm going to make you happy in the short term, but in the long term, you're not going to have the desired results, right?
You're starting off with a calorie deficit for the 15 to 20% body fat individual?
It will not if they're a complete noob.
Okay, yeah.
I would
4 or 5 years training.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's a smart way to go about it too. They won't want to do that. They come to you wanting to get big, and you're like, first we're going to get smaller. They're like, oh, what did I pay this guy for?
But I try to kind of like communicate with them like in a way to still motivate them. So I'll just be like, okay, like we can start getting bigger when I can see your abs.
Yeah, that's
right.
totally.
Because like what guy doesn't want to have abs, right? So when you talk to them about it like that way, like okay, because if I just say okay, we got to get you really small first, like they're gonna go fucking hire somebody else. But if I'm like okay, like I understand your goal, let's just wait till I can see your abs and maybe get some lines in your legs, and then we can really like flip the switch and like go into a bulk mode. Because then I find that kind of helps them get excited for it.
Well, then there are other, little nitty gritty points that you could get into to help convince them. And there are things that we're already aware of. And, it goes without saying, but, insulin sensitivity is a big one. Level of body fat is where estrogen is produced. And with the higher body fat you are, the lower insulin sensitivity you're going to have. And those are both counter to making good natural gains. So
I talk about insulin sensitivity more than I talk about anything.
Yeah.
When it comes to that, like I'm just like I feel like anytime I talk about anything on Instagram, like I somehow bring insulin sensitivity into it. Like it's just because I feel like it's the most important thing when it comes to building muscle. Like if you're already fat and you're trying to build more muscle, like your body's just going to keep getting fatter. Like if you're insulin resistant, like doesn't matter what you do or what you eat, like your body is just not going to use that to build muscle. It's just going to store it as body fat because that's what it's currently programmed to do, right?
For sure. Yep.
All right. Well, we've been on for like an hour now, so we'll leave it there. And we'll pick it up in a few days or next week sometime. But yeah, that was a pretty good one. I thought we covered a lot. So you got anything else to say before we shut it down?
No, just hope everyone is making the best of this situation. I'm training hard in the hopes that things open up towards the end of the year or next year, and staying optimistic. And I hope everyone else is too.
Yeah, same to me, guys. Keep lifting, keep doing what you can. Most importantly, eat right. And if you're having trouble eating right, call me first and then call Randy second if I can't help you.
Yeah, if Morgan charges too much money.
Yeah. If you're out of my price range, then Randy will help you out for sure. He's offering discounted coaching. No, I'm just fucking with you guys. All right, thanks for watching, guys. We appreciate it. Remember, leave in the comments below questions for next week. And hopefully, we'll talk to you guys again soon. Thanks for watching.